Welcome to the Life You Love podcast.
We're your hosts, Grace Lemire
and Erin Convertini.
This podcast is for the dreamers and the doers.
For the women who want to create a life they genuinely love waking up to.
We believe that life's short, so let's build one we love.
You guys loved our New Year's episode last year. It's still one of our best performing episodes to this day. So we're bringing it back again this year to talk all things 2025 goals, things we're focusing on this year, and how we're preparing to make 2025 our best year yet. I love the new year so much because I feel like it almost gives you permission to show up as a better version of yourself or show up as the person you know you want to become. So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode.
Yay! I love these types of episodes. I do. They're so fun. Also, if you're watching the video version of this, we have a special guest, Bella, here today. So if you see her or hear her,
she's been our third co-host lately. I just don't have the heart to kick her out of the office anymore. She literally paws at the office door if I kick her out. So she's just sitting on the couch with me if you're watching the video version. But
we've just become dumb pushovers and we're like, sure, Bella, you can join. But she's like on her best behavior when she's here. She really is. She knows like when she's in the studio, she's got to lock in and just be like peaceful Bella and not be like
she is in the studio and she said, guys, I have some 2025 goals that I want to share. So
she does.
Yeah, maybe she'll chirp in, but
she'll chime in. No, I love these types of episodes. I feel like I know when we did this one last year, it was like one of my favorite ones we've ever filmed. I think it's cool to like speak your goals into existence. And I think also it's interesting to hear how we set goals. We did an episode earlier this year with one of my friends, Taryn Johnson, who does human design. And I don't remember which number episode it is, but I definitely recommend going back and listening to it because I am a non-specific manifester and Erin is specific. And I feel like that shows through a lot in the goals that we set and like how we set them, which I think makes this really cool because now as like I'm sharing my goals and you're sharing yours, you can really see the difference in how we do it, which I think is neat.
Yeah, definitely. I remember last year when we did the New Year's goal episode. First of all, that one was really fun because at the time we were strictly posting money content because we were still Girls Talk Money at the time. And I think that was our first like non-finance related episode. We still did talk a little bit about finances and money in that episode because I think that episode we did like life goals, money goals, and professional goals. So we kind of split it up this way. And looking at our list of goals this year, like it is kind of funny to see how things have shifted because I really don't have any like big financial goals on my list, and I don't think that you have that many either. I think most of mine are more centered around like personal growth this year, but I think in my mind I think of that as like when I grow personally, I also grow professionally because I become a better version of myself. So it's just like interesting to see how our goals like kind of matured over the year.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've also kind of this year has rocked my shit, for lack of better words. Like this year, I feel like my life kind of got a bit of like a factory reset, and there were so many things that happened, and so much like it was a really difficult year. But I think looking back on the goals I set at the beginning of the year, I look back and I'm like, dang, like not that they weren't good goals to have, but just I wanted to like hustle so hard, I feel like, and get to a like these kind of like arbitrary points with certain things. And I realized that's not really what I actually care about. And you'll see, like, I guess in the goals that I have, they're a bit more like free flowing and just, more like personal growth focused. I think the whole like hustling to the next point, I just am a little bit over that after how this year went. I'm like, I just want to prioritize experiencing more joy and like being at peace and like not necessarily be trying to hustle to this like the next big financial goal, of course we're trying to move upward, like nothing crazy.
That's exactly how I feel about it too, because even in my kind of like professional / career goals that we'll talk about, I don't really have anything super specific. I do have like, again, I want to be further along than I am right now, but I don't have anything specific as in like I need to do this by X date or like this by the end of the year. It's just sort of like I want 2025 to be sort of the year that I figure out like what my career looks like long term and really define that. I said like build a business is like my thing for this year because right now I think a lot of my career is like focused on being a creator and things like that, and I know that I do want to like have a business and be like a business owner full time for the rest of my career, and I haven't decided sort of like what I have some ideas, but I haven't decided like exactly what I want to do yet. So I think like that's sort of the idea for this year is like, okay, I want this to be the year that I like define what I want to do for the rest of my life, but I don't really have goals on like I need to build a business by July, and then I want to be making X amount in revenue by August, and those kinds of things.
I agree completely. Okay, let's start with the goals. I have a couple financial ones. I don't know if you have any financial ones on your list.
I have one that I can talk about.
Oh, okay, cool. So, okay, my financial goals for the year, I'll just share this two of them, so I'll just share them. But one of them, I put like more than double my income, but truly, I feel like that's kind of like arbitrary, like that amount, just because I was like thinking about this recently. I feel like a lot of goals, you know how they say like the SMART goal thing where they're like, make it measurable and pick a deadline and no, I hate that. I'm like, for example, one of my goals this year was to read 50 books. And I got to the end of the year and I'm just shy of 50. And I was like, I'm not going to be disappointed about this because if you actually look at like the root of the goal, the purpose was for me to spend more time off a screen, to spend more time relaxing, to help like regulate my nervous system and just do something that's calm, and also to learn more and just like turn off my brain more and stuff. Did I accomplish that? Yes. The number of hitting like 50 books was an arbitrary number that I just picked because I felt like that would be challenging. So when it comes to money, I feel like I'm in the same boat where like saying more than double my income is kind of arbitrary. It would be cool. Like I would love to like manifest that and like make a crap ton of money. But the main reason why I say that is because I am starting to save for a house. And when my lease is up in the city that I moved to, it'll be April 2026. And I think my plan is to move back to Massachusetts and buy a house here because I think this is where I want to plant roots, like close to my family. And in order to save for my dream home in Massachusetts, I need a pretty hefty down payment just because like property values here are really high. So in comparison to other states. So that's kind of the goal is to like grow my income to a point where I have all of that stashed away for the dream home. I don't quite know what that looks like. And then the other financial goal I have this year is to give more. I like have always been someone who just like wants to give back as much as possible. And I do it in different ways, but I feel like this year there was a lot of changes that happened financially, and also with all the health stuff that happened this year and having to pull back from freelancing a little bit and relying more on social media income. Like there was just a lot of moments of being, I feel like, in a bit of a scarcity mindset. And, you know, because like as entrepreneurs, your income goes up and down. And I feel like it led me to be a little bit more selfish with my money than I would have liked. And I think that I didn't give to others as much as I want to. So in 2025, I'm trying to make that a priority. I do want to give like more directly to the source, as in, you know, like when I'm at the grocery store and they ask for a donation, I'm like, no, because they're just going to use that as a tax write-off. So I try to give directly to people, like getting a gift card for the homeless person or buying them a meal or like things like that. So if anyone listening has any tips for like the best ways to give, let a girl know, because I feel like there's a lot of like ethical things that happen with that and giving to giant organizations. But I want to be less like selfish with my money and just like help people out more.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put it in terms of like when you're in a scarcity mindset, it's harder to give because I think like a gigantic shift happened for me sort of halfway through the year. Maybe it was when I moved down to Nashville because I spent so much money moving down here that like prior to that move, I like did a lot more of that. In April of 2024 for my 25th birthday, I did 25 days of fun on my socials, and it was 25 days of giveaways, events, and charity donations. And I was able to donate, which like it was half of my budget template sales for the month, but I was able to donate almost $10,000. And I really want to do that again for 2025. That's like my big goal for 2025. But I like thinking back to that time, I like was in the mindset of like, okay, I can make this money and I can make this money back. And if I give $10,000, I can make $20,000. And like I inherently kind of had that mindset. But I think like as the year went on, I somehow fell out of that. And like in the latter half of the year, I went back to having the scarcity mindset of like, okay, I like can't, my business expenses have to be incredibly low and I can't like spend any of the money that I'm making because what if my income goes down in 2025 and things like that. So yeah, getting out of that scarcity mindset I think is really important, and I definitely want to make giving a priority for me in 2025 as well. So I really like that. And then yeah, I guess like my big financial goal, and I listed this as a personal goal, but it is inherently a financial goal. But mine is to buy my dream townhouse. And that's funny that you also said like home ownership as well. But I know I've talked about this on the podcast in the last couple of episodes, but my plan is to move back to Pittsburgh in 2025 when my lease is up in the summer. And part of that is definitely because I am in a relationship with someone that still lives in Pittsburgh, and we've been doing long distance, and I don't want to do long distance for more than I have to. But then also, like, I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I would never purchase property in Tennessee. Like, I don't want to plant roots permanently where my family isn't. And I am sort of financially ready to buy, or at least I think that I will be financially ready to buy and put enough down onto a house by the time my lease is up. So in 2025, that is my like big financial goal, and like basically where all of my money is going to be going until I'm able to do that and move in the summer.
Yeah, I am honestly so excited for you. I think like owning a home is going to be such a fun chapter for you, and I feel like I'm excited for you to go back to Pittsburgh too. I think like we've talked about this too, just like as friends, like off the record, but I feel like your late 20s, you get to this point where you start to think about like, okay, yeah, what do I really value in life and what is truly important to me? And of course, there are things that both of us don't love about our home cities and home areas, but like raising a family around our family is so important, and thinking about really starting to plant roots. It's kind of like nerve wracking, but also like kind of exciting. Like I've definitely entered this era where I'm like, I really just want to have a house and like make some good like gluten-free bread in my kitchen and like light a candle and watch a show. Like that's like
well,
kind of
and
the dream.
thinking about like what are your personal goals for the next like 5 or so years. Like in 5 years, I ideally would like to have a child.
Yeah.
So me staying in Nashville for another year, being in a relationship or not, like that isn't really aligned with what I want, because I sort of am ready to start taking that next phase of my life, or like start, I don't know, working toward that goal, because if I stay in Nashville, that's like only going to delay being able to do that for another year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. I think that it's kind of cool that we both, well, you've already moved away and then I am moving away. But I feel like the way we've done it, just like going away for like a year or a little over a year, because I think your lease is like 13 months, mine's 15 months. So like just like going away, having that experience, then coming back, I feel like is going to be the best thing.
Yeah, I also think like it's a good lesson for anyone listening to this that moving away, I think, is a good experience for anyone. If you don't want to do it, like that's totally fine. It's not a necessary experience to have in your 20s. But if you do choose to go away because you think you want that experience, you are not any less successful, or you did not fail if you choose to move back. Like moving away from home and living away from your family does not make you any more independent than if you choose to live in the same city. It's actually such a blessing to be able to live in the same city as your family and see your family and raise your kids in the same city as your family. So yeah, I think that's like kind of a good lesson, because you definitely see on social media like move to the big city, and like if you choose to stay in your hometown, like you're a failure and everything like that. And that is so not the case.
No. I think if your worldview is limited to your hometown, then it's like, okay, now, you know, like if you think that is what the world is like, it's like, no, there's so much more of the world, and you should like be aware of what goes on outside your hometown. But yeah, I think also just logistically, like we both want to have like families and stuff, and I want to raise my kids around their grandparents. I really loved that about my upbringing. Logistically, that doesn't make sense with like me moving, like living somewhere else. So when I have kids, I want to be close by, and that is not a failure to just acknowledge that and be like, I want them nearby. Okay. Some personal goals on my list. Let's see, where do I want to start? Since I guess I'll start with since we're on the topic of like moving. One of the things I really want to prioritize in 2025 is finding more hobbies that are outside of my house. Like I do certain things, like I like to cook, and like I do little like diamond painting, and like just little things that I like to do at home. But I think because of where I live now, it's kind of not really near anything. I haven't really prioritized hobbies outside of my house, mostly because there's not much to do outside of here. I go to like some workout classes and stuff, but there's just not that sense of like community and young people and things where I live. And so in my new city, I want to make that a priority, doing things like, okay, when I was in LA, I stayed there for a month last year, and my friend and I would do trapeze classes, which is at a circus school. It's like when It's the people who, if anyone's unfamiliar with trapeze, it's like the people who like fly through the sky. They like hang off the bar and they like twirl and fly
I
through
would
the
hate
sky.
that so much. I
Oh,
would hate
well, it's funny
everything about
because
that.
I'm terrified of like I don't like well not terrified. I wouldn't say terrified, but I don't like heights. I'm fine in like a plane or something, but like if you put me up on a ledge, I'm like, "Ugh," you know. And it's hilarious because I was like I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to conquer my fear of heights. And when I was like on that little ledge, like wait, like you're literally your toes are over the edge and you're hanging on this bar. You are strapped in and there's, you know, whatever. There's a net below you, but my kneecaps were shaking so violently. It was actually insane, but it was a really good way to like face my fear. But I already looked it up, and the new city I'm moving to does have a circus school, and I would love to do trapeze again or like aerial. Like it's just so fun, and it's actually so challenging. And I love that it's challenging because it's something that when you go to it like every week or every other week, you can feel yourself getting better and you can see yourself like improving. I don't know. I would also love to do like a run club or like pottery, just anything like a hobby that's outside of my house and really gets me out and helps me build community because I think that'll be important in a new city anyways, but also I just, you know, when you ask someone like, oh, like, what are your hobbies? And they're like, yeah, I do pickleball and I kayak and I like rock climb and I do this, and they say all these things. I'm always like, you're so cool. Like, what the heck? Like, when people
Yeah.
have real hobbies, I'm like, you're the coolest person ever. And then they're like, what are your hobbies? And I'm like, I like to like rot on my couch and cook and like watch The Ultimatum. And, you know, like, I don't have a ton of hobbies and they aren't the most interesting, but I want to have
Yes.
them.
I'm the exact same way. I have like zero hobbies that are super interesting. When I lived in Pittsburgh, my thing was playing basketball, and I thought that was like cool and fun, and I really loved it. And when I moved back to Pittsburgh, I want to sign up for basketball again. I like didn't look for a team here. I probably should have, but when I go back to Pittsburgh, I do want to, except I'm kind of like in this weird situation because last year I invited my ex-boyfriend to play on my basketball team with me, and I'm pretty sure he still plays. So I like kind of I don't know if I can do that again, but we'll figure it out because that's the hobby that I want to get back into. But yeah, I'm the same way. My hobbies include like going to happy hour with my friends and like sitting there for hours talking and like having snacks and drinking wine.
Yapping
and, like,
is not
that's
a
so
hobby.
fun to me. And that's so fun to me. But like
It is fun.
you can tell people that like happy hour is your hobby. But okay, let's see. Which one do I want to talk about first? Oh, okay. This one is like probably going to sound really surprising coming from me because I've never cared about this in my entire life. Not like because I didn't care about it, because I think I just like didn't have any knowledge around it. But in 2025, I want to care a lot more about the things in my environment. So I said like using clean products and being aware of plastics and like BPAs and all of that. And this makes me really sad because my pots and pans were like cute and pink, but they're non-stick. And I'm like learning about how bad non-stick pans are for you. So I bought stainless steel pans, which aren't as cute. But yeah, I just want to be like a lot more aware and buy like cleaner products. In 2024, I stopped using perfume and I found a perfume that is like totally clean. And just like starting to like replace products here and there. It's obviously not going to be like if you see me using plastic, don't come for me. It's obviously like these things take time and like we're all human and it's like kind of overwhelming to swap out everything, but just like making little choices here and there.
Yeah, I did that a little bit when I moved into my apartment here because I had to buy everything new because I didn't like own anything. And I got like glass cutting boards. So I didn't have plastic cutting boards. I don't use plastic bowls. I use glass bowls, glass containers, like really swapping some of that stuff out. But my pans is one thing that I definitely need to. I bought a whole set of nonstick pans and then my current apartment has a gas stove, which I didn't have at my parents' house and I wasn't used to it. And I didn't realize just how hot it gets. Like the low setting is more of like a medium setting because it's like almost like fire, whatever. And I like burnt my pan. Like I literally like they look horrendous. I'm not like the inside of them looks awful. So I feel like it's a bummer because they're only like a year old, but I do need to swap over. And I do agree. I want to get like stainless steel.
Except I tried cooking on steel pans for the first time this week and it is so challenging.
It's like, a disaster.
Everything sticks.
Oh, my parents have like when I was living at their house, we had like a nonstick pan and then we had like I don't even know what you would call it. It was stainless. There was a stainless steel one, but then there was some sort of like, it wasn't like cast iron, but it wasn't nonstick. And I would literally only use the nonstick pan because I felt like the stainless steel pan, everything stuck to it. And then it was like a pain in the butt to actually, but then with the nonstick pan, you can only use certain utensils on. It was just like I was like,
I
gosh, like
know.
really?
I need to watch a YouTube
Yeah.
video or something because I know there's a way to do it to where
Yeah.
it's not like a complete disaster, but I
Yeah.
don't know what those are. So,
Yeah, it is. I know. I also tried to like swap out different like cleaners for like cleaner stuff, but it does take a while. And some of those like natural cleaners and stuff do not work good. You know,
no,
some of them
they
don't.
don't
And
smell that
it's
great. They don't
no.
make your clothes smell clean. There's
If you're
those
watching the
too.
video version of this, please look at the video. Bella's like getting off the couch and she just like put her paws on the ground, I'm assuming first, and her butt was just like up in the air and her tail was everywhere. That was
Right in the camera.
hilarious. Okay, okay. Next one, next personal goal. This is probably going to sound really funny, but you have to stick with me and I'll explain. One of my goals for 2025 is to think less. And here's what I mean by this, okay? I read this book twice this year called Don't Believe Everything You Think. And it's an amazing book. I think everyone should read it, especially if you struggle with overthinking or if you have anxiety, which I deal with both. And basically, not to spoil it, because you should still read the book. This won't spoil the whole thing. But one of the whole like kind of theme of the book is that thinking is the root cause of human suffering, because you can have a thought like come into your head and just like let it flow, and just it's when you start to like think about it and ruminate on it is when things start to go left. And the way he words it in the book was so impactful for me that I've tried to like, when I have a thought, I try to just be like, I'm not going to claim that thought, or I'm not going to entertain that thought. I'm just going to stop my brain right there. And you definitely have to actively do it, like kind of remind yourself, but then it becomes a bit more like just like your default to not ruminate on things. But it's been so helpful. And so one of my goals in 2025 is to, yeah, it's literally to like think less, is to just like let the thoughts like be in my brain and then just let them go and not ruminate on everything, or like, yeah, like not overthink things as much and just let it be like what it is. And yeah,
Yeah, like
think
not
less.
stress about situations that like probably won't even happen in the future but could potentially happen. And
Yeah,
yeah,
or
like
just like,
prematurely stressing.
you know, sometimes where you kind of have, I don't know if the word is intrusive, but like you have like an intrusive thought, like this, like, you know, your brain is catastrophizing and is like, this thought is like so like scary or whatever. Sometimes I feel like I'd be like, well, why did I have that thought? Is that a sign? Like, where's that thought coming from? Is that a sign from God? Is that this? Is that the, like, and I would try to get to the root of it so that I could address it. But I realized that I wasn't really, I was just going in circles, and that the best way to was just to be like, that's a thought, and then just like try to let it go and like distract myself with something else and then let that thought leave my head. Or just being like if I am thinking about something, just stopping myself and being like, what's the root of this? Like, what am I trying to get out of thinking about this over and over? And a lot of times it's just like, I just want to make the right decision, or there's some sort of fear attached to it, and then that illuminates the area that you need to like work on. Okay, well, I'm going to try to address that fear rather than like ruminating on this one thought. I know the reason why I'm ruminating on it is because I have this fear. Now I'm going to go like address that fear. So you're not sitting there in your thoughts all the time, which I feel like living alone and running my business by myself and all, you just are in your thoughts. Like, I spend a lot of time alone and it's just me in my head. So I don't know. I want to, yeah, think less. I don't want to have a single thought. I want to have thoughts, but I don't want to think. No think, none at all. I don't want to
I
think
heard this on a
at all.
podcast. A podcast host was saying if you have a negative thought about yourself, something that you can say is, I forgive myself for having this thought and I'm working on thinking this. So you're like actively saying out loud, like, I'm acknowledging that I had this thought and I forgive myself for having this thought, but I'm no longer going to think this and I'm working on thinking this instead. And I thought that was a really good way to put it as well.
Sometimes when a thought comes in my head that I'm like, what the heck? I literally will be like, girl, what the hell was that? Like, I'll say it out loud. I'll be like, what was that? Why are we doing
Where
that?
did that come from?
Yeah, like I'm just like, girl, like no, like what was that? You know? Because I'm just like, it's not coming from like your true self, if that makes sense. You know, it's an intrusive thought that has no grounds. Or like if I'm thinking about something too much, I'll literally just be like, that's enough, no more. We're gonna just like think about something else, or just like go watch a show, or just distract myself.
Yeah, totally. Okay, the next one on my list kind of goes like hand in hand with this, the idea of like getting out of your head and slowing down a little bit and just like, yeah, not being such a crazy person and feeling like rushed all the time, because I definitely like got bad about that in 2024. Like, even though I start my morning routine at freaking 5:30 in the morning, I still feel like I'm so rushed for literally no reason. So just like slowing down. And then I also said half of this is like being a more interesting version of myself. And the whole goal is about like reading different types of books this year. I was not a reader in 2024, and I really want to get back into that, which I'm pretty sure I said that at the beginning of 2024 too. But this is the year, mark my words, I'm going to start reading different types of books and just like reading more in general. Journaling, I have gotten a lot better about journaling over the past couple of months. And I think it was because I had it in my head that I wanted this to be a 2025 goal. And I'm like such a firm believer of like, if you want to set a goal, don't like wait until a milestone moment to like get started on them. Like, don't start your diet on Monday, start your diet when you decide you want to start your diet, kind of thing. So I have been journaling a lot more over the past couple of months, and I have really loved it again. And then the third part of this is making faith a bigger part of my life and like spending more time in that area. And this is something that I never talk about because it honestly just like hasn't been that big of a part of my life, like in my adult life. But my boyfriend actually took me to church for the first time in a really long time a couple of weeks ago, and I like had the best experience with it. And I think the reason why is because I grew up going to Catholic mass every single Sunday, but religion was always like a point in my life of like my parents would make me go to church, but then we would never talk about it outside of church. And like Catholic mass, I also just like didn't really feel like I learned that much in mass. You sort of like sit and stand and sing and say the same things every single week. Like that's like what it felt like for me. So I never really got into it in my adult life, but my boyfriend took me to church and we went to a non-denominational Christian church. And I was like, wait, this is like so great. This is like the experience that I've never had in church. I like didn't really realize that that's what happened at church. So I just want to make that like a bigger part of my life and spend more time with it. But
I love that. I know we've had conversations offline about this too, and I love that it's something you're exploring because you know that I've been exploring my faith this year, and I think it's just it's a cool, not cool. I don't want it to sound like I'm saying this is like trendy or whatever, but like I think it's really empowering to kind of like go at your own pace and to learn about it and to like yeah, like go to church and then maybe like go to a different church and like see like, okay, wow, what do I like better? Like what kind of structure do I like? Right. Like you're saying, okay, Catholic mass didn't resonate with me the most. Like maybe I'm not Catholic. Maybe I prefer a non-denominational church. And I think I did make a video kind of sharing some of this and it got so much crap, but I like genuinely don't care because I think that you're going to have a better relationship with God if you are doing it in a way that feels good and authentic to you and that feels like yeah, you're going at your own pace. I think it's like weird to think people to expect people to go from like 0 to 100, which I think is what a lot of the comments were kind of saying in that video. Like they were like, well, you should be going to church in person every week and doing all this. And I'm like, I haven't been to church like since I was like 7. Please, I'm gonna watch the online live stream for a few weeks to kind of like get my bearings, and then when I move to my new space, yeah, I'll go to church in person sometimes. Like let me develop my relationship with God. Like,
totally. And I think like that was always my kind of like mindset about religion, was that it always just like I associated it with a lot of judgment for like those types of things. And I think that's why I was like so hesitant to get back into it, because I did sort of feel like this pressure to, well, if I go to church, but like I don't really know that much about religion.
It's like you have to be perfect to show up, which is like,
it's like, no. But like when I did go to the service that I went to with my boyfriend, like the sermon was like, it was so wild how that was like exactly what I needed to hear that day. I think the sermon was about like how to like be more involved in your community and why like God wants you to build roots wherever you are, even though you like might not be there for a while. That was when I was deciding on moving back to Pittsburgh. And I was like, that's such a good lesson to like still be involved in my community here in Nashville while I'm still here, and still be like investing in my friendships while I'm still here and everything. So I just like had a really good experience with it. And I like want to like make it a bigger part of my life, like in the ways that I can. But I don't know.
I love that for us, because that's like one of my goals in 2025 too, is to continue building it. I've gotten into a good routine with like, I watch a live stream of a church service every Sunday, and then I like read my Bible before I go to bed. But I want to like learn more about it and potentially in my new city go to church in person. That like really intimidates me because of the judgment as well, because I do feel like people sometimes expect you to show up perfect, which I'm like, Guys, that's the whole reason, like, that's one of the main reasons people don't want to go to church. If you want people to come to church, you have to make them feel like they're welcome, and expecting them to know everything and be perfect, whatever, when they
Yeah.
show up is just the
I
opposite.
honestly
But
think
yeah.
like something that you could maybe really like, especially after moving to Florida, is finding like a Bible study or something. Because I think
Hmm.
like that vibe is a lot more of like we're all learning together and like we are, yeah, it's sort of like education is a big component of it, because I think that's like what intimidates me is like I hate not knowing things and I hate like admitting that I'm like uneducated on a certain topic. So it intimidates
Yeah.
me to like start learning about that. But I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay. Next on my list. Okay. One of my goals for 2025 is to work on my attention span. This probably sounds like so random, but I've noticed recently that when I watch videos on TikTok, I'm always like holding down. You know how you can like hold down and the video will go in like 2 times speed? If someone's telling a story, like I'm always holding down in 2 times speed, partially because I feel like it takes people forever to get to the point sometimes. And I'm just like, this video did not need to be 5 minutes long. Like, get to it. But I'm also like, guilty of doing that because I just like yap in circles. But I've noticed that my attention span is definitely lacking a little bit, even with like if I'm gonna watch like a basketball game. Last year I would be locked into these basketball games, like watching them. I wouldn't have really any distractions or whatever. Now I find myself like during commercial breaks I'm going on my phone, or like even during the game sometimes I'm like pulling up my phone because I my brain is not simply like occupied on the game. And that is like not the type of person that I want to be. I want to be able to like focus kind of on more of what I'm doing. Or like if I watch a movie, it has to be like super engaging, or I'm just like not there. When I'm in conversations with people, like my attention's focused on them, don't get me wrong, or like with work, I can like lock in and focus on things. But I've noticed when it comes to like non-work things, I have a hard time slowing my brain down and just like, yeah, like not putting everything in 2x speed, or like, okay, it's a commercial break, just like watch the commercials or just sit there, you know? Like I think being online as much as I am for work and just like my own pleasure is definitely hurting my attention span, and I don't want to do that. So I definitely want to fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
No,
like, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I really love that. That's something good to work on. I think that I heard this on a podcast and they were saying like the co-host or the host of the podcast was saying that she spends a lot of time watching YouTube videos on her TV as opposed to like scrolling on TikTok. And she said that
Hmm.
that has done a lot for her attention span,
Yeah.
because TikTok, I think, is like the worst for that. Because, yeah, if I'm not interested in 2 seconds, I'm swiping and then I'm
Yeah.
trying. I honestly don't spend a lot of time scrolling on TikTok at all anymore because it's so bad for my
Yeah.
anxiety. I become such an anxious person as soon as I open the app.
Yeah.
So I want to spend a lot more time just like putting on a YouTube vlog and just like letting myself sit there and like not think and not feel the need to be like working or doing anything else.
Yeah, I will say I watch like a lot of, I feel like people would be surprised with the type of content I watch on YouTube. Like I love watching like when people are like going to Burger King and trying everything on the menu, or like I
Really?
think, yes, I think that like food video, I watch a lot of food videos, or like there's this one girl I watch who will be like testing like TikTok's like worst rated recipes or things. I think a lot of it, this might sound funny, but I think it's because I can't eat like any of the food. So it's like I would watching it is like so satisfying, oddly enough. I also love watching, I don't know if anyone will know him, but Kevin Lang. He has like, it's kind of like comedy, like a comedy show thing, but it's filmed like in a studio in LA. And it's just like it's with real people are like the contestants on the show. And like it's just fun to watch and it's funny. But I'll also watch like Saray Jones, if anyone knows her. Like I love all of her vlogs. So I'll watch stuff like that. Laura Lee, Manny MUA, like makeup stuff. Yeah, I need to like watch more
Yeah.
YouTube. But I will say one of my like, this is one of my career goals, just to like skip ahead, but then we'll come back to personal. But one of my career goals is to listen to more podcasts, because I feel like part of the reason why the whole attention span thing, listening to podcasts, I feel like sometimes they just aren't really very interesting, and they do take longer though to get to the point. I feel like sometimes if it's more of like an educational episode, and sometimes I find myself just kind of tuning out when I'm listening to them because it's like slower paced and it's not like all the information in 5 seconds. So, but you can learn a lot. And there are podcast episodes I've listened to where what was said in the episode really stuck with me and like made a big difference in the way that I handle something with my work or life or finances. So I want to listen to more podcasts to learn more, but also to help my attention span
Yeah,
and
I
help my
actually do
career.
think that does a lot for my attention span because I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts, mainly
Yeah.
walking on the treadmill at the gym. That's like my favorite pastime. And then also when I'm like cleaning or like doing the dishes or putting stuff away after dinner and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, I'm always listening to a podcast. But
Yeah.
let's see, the next one on my list. Okay, this one has to do with like habits that I want to focus on. And I wanted to add this in here, even though there's only like a couple things that I specifically noted for like habits that I definitely want to focus on. And I think that's a good lesson for like when you're talking about habits that you want to focus on in a new year, it makes you realize how like those habits compound over the habits that you built last year. So like at the beginning of 2024, the habits that I wanted to focus on were like way more significant. It was like keep my apartment clean because my apartment's a freaking disaster all the time, or like waking up at 5:30 because I'm sleeping until 8. Like they were bigger things, and now that I've already like nailed those habits, it's more about just like refining a couple of things here and there. Like this is the first year in a really long time that I didn't set any health and fitness goals for the new year because like I already feel like I'm at a good point. I like set those
Mm-hmm.
last year and I like achieved them. So now I don't really feel like I have to like refine those anymore. So it's just sort of the idea of like your habits compound and you don't have to focus on everything all at one time. But like once you nail something, that's time to like move on to the next habit. So the three that I want to focus on this year are making my bed every day. I do keep my apartment pretty clean, but my bed is just something that I like never really care. I think it's because I'm like literally never in my room other than sleeping. Like I wake up, I put clothes on, and then I do not look at my room like for one other second. But it's just so satisfying to lay down at night in a made bed. So I want to do that every day. And then I said no dishes in the sink ever. I let dishes pile up and then I get to them like at the end of the day, but I like really want to get better about that. And then the third one is the closing shift after work. So I do this, but like not every single day. But it's just like as soon as I turn off my computer, I want to spend 20 minutes just like picking everything up and making sure my apartment is like very, very clean before I make dinner and before I relax for the night because I can relax so much better in my space when it's a clean space. So
Mm-hmm. The habits compounding thing is so true because I remember a few years ago, I wanted to make it a habit to make my bed every day. And then I like forced myself to do it. And now it's like completely habitual. I do it on autopilot when I stay in like a hotel. Like I'll still like, I pull like the sheets back and stuff. Like but it's so like part of my routine. I don't even think about doing it anymore. Or like my night routine, it's funny because I have like my journal, my iPad where I read, and my Bible, and I will take them everywhere with me. Sometimes I have to leave my Bible behind because it's so big, but I'll just use like a Bible app and read it before I go to bed. But that journal has gone with me everywhere. Everywhere. Even like if I slept over a man's house, it's coming with me. And I'm like, excuse me, before we go to bed, here
excuse
we
me.
go. Let me just like I'm not even joking. It goes everywhere with me.
Yeah.
And I just like make it a priority, and it's just because it's part of my routine. So it's like if I don't do it, it's like just feels kind of odd. But now that that's part of my routine, I don't have to think about like, okay, I want to really continue it in 2025 because it's just
Yeah,
part of
you
like
don't
my
have to, it
lifestyle.
doesn't have
Yeah,
to be a
it's
focus
right.
area
Yeah.
anymore because you don't have to
Yeah.
focus on it. Yeah.
Yeah. The closing shift thing though is so important. I really need to do that more. I need to like clean things up before I go to bed. I have like a bad habit of not doing that because I'm the only one who lives here, and I'm like, well, like am I really gonna like wash like one single dish? Like why don't I just do like five of them at the same time? And it's like, but it does feel so satisfying when your space is clean and
Yes.
organized, and just like, not that my space is dirty by any means, but just doing the closing shift and taking care of some of that, organizing yourself. I also need to do better at having like a shutdown routine. I leave like all my tabs open on my computer, and I like never turn my computer off, and it's so bad. And then I feel like I just think about work, and I need to be better about being like, okay, it's the end of the night, everything's getting closed. Like, is there anything that's truly that important that's like we're midway through a project and have to leave it open? Like, no, probably not. We can like save where we're at, close out of everything, because I feel like as an entrepreneur, it kind of like bleeds, like your work can just like
Yeah.
bleed into, or any remote worker for that matter, like because your work computer is literally right next to you and you're trying to relax. And I feel like really
Yeah.
closing that out would help
No, the
me.
shutdown routine is such a good one too. I didn't put that on my list, but that's something that I think I want to work on as well. Not even so much with work, but just like making sure I'm super relaxed before I go to bed. So, like, yeah, taking 10 minutes to journal and like slow my brain down. And then I asked for the Hatch alarm clock for Christmas. That was the only thing that I asked for Christmas this year. And I just feel like it's going to be so awesome to like go to bed with the rain sounds and like wake up with the sunlight from my Hatch alarm clock. I'm so excited about it. But then also I've been drinking a lot more tea recently, like hot tea before bed. And that's been a really great way too to kind of like make me sleepy and ready for bed.
Having a solid sleep routine literally changed my life. I did not think it was going to make a big difference at all, but having an actual wind down routine, we could like probably do an episode on like our routines and how we like created our routines and things like that and why we do them. But literally it's made a massive difference in my sleep quality. It's insane.
Yeah.
Okay. Other personal goals. I still have more to share. How many do you have left? Do you have a lot or a little? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. Okay, I'll share these two because they go together. So one is to develop a consistent workout routine that I truly love. I think I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but a few years ago, I was like really big into weightlifting and I would like go to the gym 5 or 6 days a week and was like lifting heavy weights and focused on like progressive overload and all this stuff. And then the gym ended up kind of becoming like a toxic place for me because I became so obsessed with how it was changing my physical appearance and became just like really obsessive about like, do I look skinnier? Is my stomach flatter? And is my butt bigger? And like whatever. I literally had to like take a step back from going to the gym because it just became too toxic and I was not in a place to do it in a healthy way. And I have tried to focus on getting back into exercise in a way that feels healthy and doesn't trigger that body obsession. And I found workout classes are really, really helpful for me, especially because a lot of them are not based on aesthetics. Like when you're going to Pilates and they're talking about your form, or like with this like body pump class that I go to, like it's just focused on like challenging yourself. Like that's what the instructor is really like motivating you with. So I really love that. And I'm not currently living in an area where there's a lot of workout class options around me and my gym doesn't have a lot. So when I move, I really want to like use ClassPass and like get into a really good routine with exercise that like makes me feel good and that I love. Of course, I would love to see aesthetic changes and like I have aesthetic goals or like things that I would love to work towards, but I really want it to just be about moving my body in a way that feels good to me. And going along with that is I really want to become more flexible. I think a lot, and I don't mean flexible in terms of like schedules. I mean like body flexible, bendy, like because I was in Pilates. This was like a couple months ago. It was my first class back after like I was out for literally months with all the health stuff this year. And we were like starting off like one of the little like exercises we had to like touch our toes. I was so far from my toes. It was crazy. And sometimes we'll like sit on the ground and like, you know, you'll like spread your legs and then lean forward. Girl, I cannot like lean forward that far. And I think a lot about longevity in terms of like my life and just like how is what I'm doing now going to support me when I'm like 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And I feel like flexibility is something that I should prioritize now so that when I am 40 or 50, I can still like get on the ground with my kids, or when I'm a grandparent, I can still like, yeah, like get on the ground with my grandkids and like be like, you know, or like run with them at soccer or like stuff like that. And also I simply feel like the fact that I can't touch my toes is crazy. You know what I mean? Now I can. Now I'm like I'm like better, but I don't know. I just feel like
every time I go to a hot yoga class, there's always like an old person in there that's significantly more flexible than me. I'm like, oh, I should do this more often. Probably.
They're literally freaking bendy as hell. And I'm over there, like I look stiff as a board. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Not that I actually care what I don't think anyone cares how bendy I am in a Pilates class, but I just mean like, it doesn't feel great to not be able to do certain exercises either because I just don't have the flexibility or the mobility, like certain like squats, like I can't get certain depth because I don't have the hip mobility for it or the ankle mobility to do certain like stretches or poses in Pilates or yoga. And I just want to be able to do that. So I really want to prioritize like fitness and health in 2025 and find like a routine that feels like really good to me.
Love that. Okay. Next one on my list. I said that I want to consume less in 2025. Like a lot less.
A lot less what? Consume less what?
I'm posting a video in the next couple of days about how much I spent on clothing in 2024. And it was like almost $4,000 that I spent on clothing this year. And like, it's not that I want to necessarily spend less. It's that I want like the pieces to be higher quality and pieces that I like really love. And I feel like working with a stylist in the fall definitely helped because like that whole process was super beneficial. We've talked about it and we have an entire episode with the stylist that I worked with on the podcast. So if you want to check that out. But I just feel like I've never had like a really strong fashion sense. I've never had like a very strong identity around what my fashion sense is. So I've never been able to like really intentionally pick out pieces that like I truly love because it's my fashion sense. Like I really want to be one of those, you know, those like influencers that you follow that just like when you look at them, you're like, yeah, that's their style. Like they just have like a very defined style and it's not like anything crazy, but it's just like that is them. Like I want that to be me. I want there to be like certain brands that are like high quality brands that I have like a couple really awesome like basic pieces that like really fit my style. I just want to be better about that in 2024. Like I want to open my closet and my closet have like not that much in there, but like all the pieces are so awesome, you know?
Yeah. We're doing an episode after, I think we're like filming it later this week. I don't know what order these will all go up in, but we're doing an episode on things we want to spend more versus less on. And like spoiler, one of the things I said I want to spend more on is actually clothes, but I was like, I want to have fewer things, but I want them to be high quality.
Yes.
I was like, I started learning kind of about like the fabric makeup of clothes and how like an item will be $150 and be like 80% polyester, which is like, some people say it's basically plastic, I guess. Just thinking about the longevity of pieces, like I would rather have a closet of items I really love that are genuinely high quality, even if that means splurging a little bit to get like a cashmere sweater, like something that's higher quality and gonna last a lot longer versus like getting something from, even though they're from certain stores that we love and like we love the item, they might not last or just like, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm working on in 2025, but we
Love
shall
that.
see.
We're in it together. Okay. I'm going to share these last two personal things, and then I have one more career goal that I'll end off with after you share your other ones. One of my goals for 2025, another personal goal, is to foster dogs. I have wanted to do this for years, and I planned to do it in this apartment that I'm currently in, but I was traveling a ton at the beginning of the year. And then when all of the health stuff happened from literally April to October, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to like take care of a dog when I'm like struggling to take care of myself. So I'm really excited to be in my new space and to be able to like foster dogs. Like I just think it's going to be so fun. And I'm also hoping that this is, I guess, kind of like a career goal, but one of my like dreams would be to do social media management for a dog rescue. And I'm hoping that if I like make a good relationship with, even just like on a volunteer basis, but even if I'm hoping if I make like a good relationship with a rescue from fostering, that maybe I can like help with their socials. I think that would be literally so fun and just like bring so much joy. So I really want to foster dogs this year or volunteer at a shelter because I do plan on traveling a lot, which is my other personal goal, is to travel more in general, but travel abroad more. I feel like I definitely traveled a lot in 2024, and I feel like it gets kind of skewed because I feel like I traveled a lot for work. So when I tell people the places I traveled, they're like, wow, that's a lot. I'm like, yeah, but I did go to like work stuff a lot. So that was part of it. But I want to travel more for like pleasure and be like all of my trips this year, most of them kind of had purposes. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to go to San Diego to tour it. I'm going to Tampa to look at it as a city if I want to move there. Going to Nashville for work, going to New York City for work. Like I didn't have a lot of just like relaxing vacations where there was really no purpose other than to just like relax and enjoy my time. And I want to do that a bit more, but I also want to travel abroad. The only places I've been outside the US are Canada and Aruba. So I want to really travel outside the US a lot more. I don't know what that will look like or when, but yeah, I definitely want to do that this year for sure.
I have that on my list as well. My like last two personal ones are these kind of like go hand in hand with this, but one thing that I want to work on is getting better about saying no to things that I like don't want to do and like know that when the time comes I'm not going to want to do. And I think a lot of that has to come with travel, like both personal travel and professional travel. Like if I'm asked to go on a trip, don't just like say yes, like off the bat, really think through if it's aligned and if it's something that I really want to do. And I want to travel a lot less within the US and travel more abroad this year. I have been like a decent like number of places abroad from when I studied abroad, but I was 19 and I'll be 26 this year. So it's like 7 years. And I've had it on my list to like go abroad for the past couple of years, and I just like haven't made it a priority. So yeah, I want to like skip out on a lot of the like weekend trips with my friends and like weekend trips to random cities in the US and save all of that money for like more intentional trips abroad. My boyfriend and I are talking about that for he's going to be deployed for a couple of months in like Q2 of this year, but when he comes back, we want to make it a priority to go abroad somewhere. That is, yeah, that's my priority for this year.
Love that. I love that. We talked about doing a trip to Bali like a year ago. We were like, oh my gosh, we're gonna go to Bali for like the entirety of January or something. And then we just like never did.
We could do it.
We could. No, we really could. Honestly, I think it's one of those things where I'm like, oh gosh, like I'm paying rent somewhere. So then when I like go travel abroad, like for a month or something, because if I'm gonna fly all the way to Bali, like I want to be there for at least a couple weeks, probably like 2 weeks or something is more realistic. But yeah, I also need to be better about, or want to be better about using my credit card points more strategically. Didn't really think about like I just like totally forgot that I had points like on my build card. Why? I don't know. But I like logged in the other day and I was like, oh, I got like 40 something thousand points. I was like, why don't I use those? Like, I don't know. I think I just like think about the logistics and the cost of traveling. But then I'm like, Grace, you literally could get like free flights and hotel, and also like you can afford to travel. So, or just like start saving for it. I want to make it more of a priority and get more travel set in stone for 2025.
Me too. And I think that kind of goes into one of my career goals, which is to invest more back into my business. And part of that is like retreats and things. Like more intentional travel for me, I think means like going to a retreat, let's say it's in like Costa Rica or something, and like yes, it's for pleasure, but then also while I'm there I'm going to be like in a room with a lot of other like entrepreneurs and a lot of other like successful women and things like that. I just like want to invest more into like getting into the right rooms. But then the other part of like investing more back into my business is also coaching and outsourcing and all of that.
I love that. This is my last one on my list, and it is a career goal. Would love to launch a product, like a physical product, or host an in-person event or trip for 365 Her, which is what I'm calling the 1 year experiment for 2025. I feel like social media is amazing and I love it, but I also feel like I want to start like operationalizing what I'm doing a little bit. I don't want to take the human out of my business at all, or out of like my creator business. Like I don't want to think so hard about it as like a business to where it feels robotic in a way. I want it to still feel like human and fun and like me and everything. But I also want to think more about the longevity of it, which I know you kind of talked about a little bit earlier, and just thinking about like in 5 years, I want to have a family and kids, like ideally have at least one child at that point and a house. What do I want my life to look like? And how is what I'm doing today setting me up for that in 5 years? And logistically, just posting content and having like brand deals and digital products. Yes, digital products are great, and affiliates and like, for stuff and whatever. That's great. But how am I creating something that I can like take a reasonable step back from? Because I have to be there on my content, and I want to be there on my content. But again, longevity, I just think having a business would be better. So like I would love to sell like, or turn 365 Her into like its own little like company maybe, or launch journals that go along with it, or merch, or like I think merch that says like on the sleeve like what would my higher self do would be absolutely freaking banging. Like I want to do that so bad. There's so many like logistical things that go into it, and also the challenge like hasn't even started. I have to see what like the public reaction is to it. So far it's been really promising, like people are really bought in and excited about it, but I would love to do that, or host like some sort of trip or retreat for people who want to meet other like-minded women that are trying to create their dream life. Like that would be so cool. And I thought of that idea because if you're on TikTok, you've probably seen the like trip in with Tarte things, where like Tarte, like the makeup company, brings like creators on these, and they're planning their next one currently. And there's been a lot of conversation about how Tarte will literally bring these creators who make a ton of money, and people who maybe don't even like use Tarte products. Like they're just people who have received their PR or things like that. Some people of course use their products, but they'll bring them on these super lavish like trips. And it's kind of started some discourse around how like the regular consumer who could be like a really loyal Tarte customer and purchase all their products like never gets to go on something like that. But yet someone who like, again, might not even like use the product is going on it. And so a lot of people have been talking about their thoughts on that. And it just made me think about how like there are people who support my content, and I it allows me to run my business. It allows me to like work with these cool brands and do these cool things and travel and all whatever. And I want to be able to like give some of that back. Like I want to be able to give people who are like supporting this of her experiment and all of that an opportunity to like connect in person and experience like an influencer trip, if you will, like experience something like that. I don't want it to be just like something that like, I don't know, builds me up. I don't know. I think when thinking about a lot of goals and stuff, I saw this thing the other day that was like, if all of your goals came true, would anyone else benefit? And it made me just like think about what goals I'm setting and why. Because if everything that I prayed for, everything that I wanted came true, if it only served me, I feel like that's such a missed opportunity. So I'm thinking a lot about that with my career. Like, how is what I'm doing making the world a better place? How am I helping other people in their lives? How is what I'm doing like creating a ripple effect and like leaving an impact? And I want to be able to, I don't know, just like give back a little bit more. So maybe do like an in-person event where people can like meet someone that could be their lifelong friend, or go on a retreat that retreat ends up changing their life or something, or giving them some sort of insight or whatever that helps them a lot. I want to just like take it to another level, not just content that I'm posting, not like just videos, you know?
Yeah, no, I said the same thing. This operationalizing, I feel like, is a good term, like kind of taking that next step between like creating content versus like a brand and a business, and like long term, like realizing that you probably don't want to be a lifestyle creator when you're like 35 with kids and sharing the ins and outs of your life when you're in your mid 30s with kids. So yeah, love that. Well, this is a little bit of a long episode, but we love to yap about this kind of stuff. So let us know in Spotify what your 2025 goals are. And if you like this episode, if you want to hear more about any of the topics that we discussed in this episode, please let us know in Spotify, or you can DM us on Instagram at The Life You Love Pod. We love hearing from you guys. But thanks for tuning into the podcast, and until next week.